everyone, and welcome back to the channel. First of all, Merry Christmas. That's already happened. Happy New Year, and Happy Gemma Bonner. That is all. That's all. That's the pod finished. That's all. No, carry on. I am joined by the lovely Andy Bell, who seems to be super sub. Maybe we just have you as a constant member of the channel now, because I feel like you've done enough to deserve that recognition.
Well, that's a pressure, isn't it? You know, like Divock Origi always came off the bench and he was scoring all these mad goals for us, and then when he started, he was rubbish. So, like, maybe I'm just gonna talk loads of rubbish in this podcast now that you've announced me as a regular.
Well, let's hope not. But yes, we hope all of you had a lovely Christmas. Whatever you did, whether you celebrated or not, I hope you had a lovely Christmas. And then obviously bringing in the year of 2023, which is quite mad to think that in 2012 everyone thought the world was going to end, and here we are 13 years later.
Joseph Kony, remember that?
Yeah, it all went off. Those were the years. I think the best year for me so far in my entire existence was 2019, the year before COVID. I don't know why. I just had a ball. Absolute brilliant time. But 2023 is here for the taking.
Well, it's hard because you have to separate football from like actual things that should make your life good, and it's like some of the best years of my life came when like Liverpool were rubbish. So I don't know, it's a balance.
Weird how that happens, isn't it? We look for joy elsewhere when Liverpool are being rubbish, don't we?
Like 13-14 was a good year. Because Liverpool were really good out of the blue, and also like
the women as well were obviously really good because they won back.
And the women were really good as well. And I was just I had no responsibility. I was in school. I didn't have bills to pay or anything like that to worry about. So yeah, maybe 13-14.
I say 2019. I say 2019 because that's when mine and Lauren's friendship grew and grew.
Okay.
Because what we used to do, because I was living in town at uni at the time, so very close to everywhere, and Lauren was obviously at home. And what we used to do is, with like the Redmen lot, we used to literally go out consecutive weekends. And the thought of doing that now to me makes me feel quite violently sick. But it was just great. We ended up in
said Amy Lawrence, 47 from Harrogate.
We ended up in the Jacaranda like more times than not in that little weird
brilliant little
bottom.
spot, isn't it?
We ended up in the Sound Bar. Do you remember on Duke Street?
No, I don't know that one.
Oh, that was the place to be. They had a lovely downstairs. The Redmen had a live event there once. It was great. But yeah, this is so off topic. But 2019 was a great year. But 2023 is going to be a great year. It is. It has to be. Can't be any worse than last year, can it? But hey, although from a Liverpool perspective, women especially, last year was pretty good. You have to admit.
Yeah, last year was amazing. I was talking to you just beforehand about like how I feel like I've just been like consistently drinking all year, like without being sort of a massive like drinker, massively obsessed with it or whatever. Just like Liverpool women going for the league, the men going for a quadruple, and it just felt like it was constant. You were doing Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, right the way through. I just haven't broken out of that yet. So maybe the men being rubbish will help with that. And maybe it's just like maybe I need the women to be a bit rubbish as well. Like stay up, but unspectacularly.
Let's not.
No Conti Cup finals, please.
No. Oh God, could you imagine? You'd lose it. But what was I going to say? I was just going to say something. Oh yes, while you were talking, something sparked. I think, and I'm pretty sure I can say this open-heartedly. If every other day in 2022 was awful, but that Bristol day only existed, I would be perfectly happy with that.
It's probably the happiest I've been in my life.
I don't know if it's the happiest I've been in my life, but it's definitely up there. That was
okay. Well, I'm talking about when I had the custard. You didn't have a giant custard cream in your hand, so like there's mitigating circumstances as to why it's not the best day of your life.
I've never laughed so hard. I feel like the custard cream has made its way into every podcast we've done now.
Yes, it has.
Which I'm absolutely fine with. It's great. I feel like we should probably start
on the custard cream.
No, start on the
start on the football, right? Okay.
You get one. You get the custard cream out if you want to get the custard cream out. Do you know what I mean?
No, I'm as I told you, I'm on a strict diet now. My body's a temple, Amy.
Anyways, let's get into the podcast. First one of the year. Let's make it a good and Andy, shall we? Starting off with the return of the Bonner.
Okay.
I knew you were going to do that.
Well, come on, you can't say that.
Anyways, Gemma Bonner has returned to Liverpool. She signed on Christmas Day. Pretty sure the announcement came out on Christmas Day.
Okay.
I think. Or Boxing Day, one of the other. Around the Christmas period, let's say. A nice little Christmas present left underneath the tree from Liverpool there for all of us. Obviously, for those who don't know, I'm pretty sure everyone who watches this podcast will know of Gemma Bonner's history at Liverpool. Was the captain at Liverpool for several years, and especially those back-to-back title wins. Goodness me, so long ago now, but they'll come back one day, I'm sure.
You never know. A late charge this season, and it would technically be back-to-back title wins, so
it could be. Oh yeah, that'd be unreal. Fingers crossed. 2023, anything can happen. Exactly. But yes, we have all warmly welcomed Gemma Bonner back to Liverpool, and there was a bit of rumours going around the last few weeks of the season. Sorry, that she'd ended her stay with Louisville, I think it is, in America. And then she'd been over to Liverpool, done a little bit of media with the likes of the Anfield Wrap. She'd been on the commentary for a couple of Liverpool games. We've seen her at Prenton Park. And it was like, this is looking like it could be. And then obviously over Christmas, it was announced that she joined us. Now, I, for one, from a nostalgic point of view, very, very, very pleased to see her back in a Liverpool shirt, and she said a lot like this is home, and that was really quite nice to hear from a fan's perspective. I thought that was quite nice. But in the back of my head, I was thinking, goodness gracious me, we now have a bit of a dilemma. We have quite a lot of defenders, some that play frequently, some that don't get to play as much, and it's like, how is that all gonna piece together? I don't know if you think the same, Andy, but what were your reactions when you saw that she'd officially been announced?
Absolutely delighted. Fantastic signing. Is going to bring so much quality to that back line, and maybe I'm being a little bit harsh here, but I would actually say much needed quality compared to the quality we have in other areas of the pitch. I think you look at it this season, and the back three's gone with pretty much ever since he's put Jazz Matthews into midfield. It's been Flaherty, Faye, and Campbell. And for me, even though we had such a great defensive record last season, a lot of that was down to Rachel Laws, and a lot of that was down to sort of them being protected a little bit by possession. And I think you see in certain games, it can be a little bit of a weak point. Now, when there's three defenders there, it should play into the hands of the other defenders, especially those with a little bit less pace, where, you've pretty much somebody holding your hand at all times. That means the wing backs can get going forward as well. However, one thing I do think that Matt Beard can do quite a bit, and it's completely sort of his own prerogative in his own right, but I think he fits Ben Campbell into the team purely for the long throw-ins. And if you took the long throw-ins out of the equation, wouldn't Ben Campbell be playing as many games at centre-half for Liverpool? Would she be playing ahead of, for example, a Leanne Rowe, who he doesn't seem to fancy and who's in the last 6 years of her contract? I'm not sure if that would be the case. So she's never really going to play left wing back ahead of Taylor Hines. You may fit Hines in somewhere else. So I think that might be just a little bit of a swap in there. You let the wing backs go, you let the wing backs attack, you let the wing backs press, and you've just got three real stoppers at the back. And there is a little bit of a concern about how many players we're signing over the age of 30. And I think the criteria seems to be for Liverpool signing players at the minute is just has played for us before. Yeah, has played for us before and is really old. But
I think 31, we have one of the highest average age.
I would say so.
WSL. We must do.
I'd say there's no doubt about that, and there's nothing wrong with that either. A little bit of experience in that division and a little bit of physicality can carry you a long way. And if you have a young team or a sort of weak team or an inexperienced team, you can find yourself getting eaten up in this league, and or in these games, and therefore in this league quite easily. So okay, it's not the most exciting team. It's not the most thrilling sign in the world. Gemma Bonner is not going to be the best defender in the world in 5 years. She's 31. She's probably at the peak of her powers right now, but there's another argument as to this is just about staying in the league, consolidating our place as a WSL team for years to come, and then we can look at the next phase and building and hopefully pushing up towards hopefully Europe someday if the project goes as we would like.
You'd like to think so. I guess that kind of brings us on to, we'll talk a bit about obviously Bonner within this next conversation, but there's a lot of rumours about some players going out on loan, and obviously you naturally then look at, as you mentioned, Leanne Rowe. She's not getting a lot of game time in the WSL. She's also not really getting that much game time in the cup games. Obviously, she is getting picked, but with the rotation and everything. If you're, for example, Leanne Robe, and you have seen that Gemma Bonner is coming in, and I don't think Gemma Bonner is going to be a bench player who comes on as a sub. I think she's been brought in to be a starting 11 player week in, week out. How would you be then sort of knocking on the door saying, look, what's going on here? I want game time. I want to either leave in 6 months' time after contracts come to an end, or look, send me out on loan. Let me show you what I can do out on loan, playing regular game time. And then once she gets back off that loan, what then happens? Maybe someone else is out the squad retiring, because as you said, like the age within our team is quite on the higher level. So if you're Leanne Rowe, what are you thinking? What are you gonna do exactly?
First of all, like, I love watching Leanne Rowe play. She's one of those defenders who you could watch her all day long. She's all action. Yeah. She's hard tackling. She's, never going to take any prisoners. If she has to go through you to get the ball, one may get past the ball or the player, but certainly never both. And like, you always love watching those defenders. If you're Leanne Rowe, in terms of, you've got 6 months left in your contract, you'd certainly be looking for a new club. I think if Liverpool were desperate to keep her at this point, especially at the age she is, and she's not old, but she's not sort of a Hannah Silcock either. I'd certainly be looking at that now. And you're looking at it, and Meg Campbell, a left wing back, is playing centre half ahead of you. And that's after one of the centre halves, Jazz Matthews, has been moved into midfield. Even in the cup games, to be honest, I prefer watching Hannah Silcock, maybe it's because I'm a little bit more excited about her. She's got a higher ceiling than Leanne Rowe, but I'm more excited to see Silcock come in there and play, and let's see what she can do, and let's see what she can develop into, rather than what I am when I watch Leanne Rowe. But that's all before you've signed Gemma Bonner. That's another player who's undoubtedly going to be ahead of her in the pecking order, and rightly so, in my opinion. No, I don't think she's a bad player. I think she's possibly even a WSL standard player. She could go to another team in the WSL. I don't know if she necessarily needs to somebody like a Leicester or Reading or Brighton. There's no doubt she would get games at some of those teams. I just think a lot was made of her in the season we went down about she had like the most tackles in the league. And sometimes when you're doing loads of tackling, it goes back to the old Maldini quote, if I have to make a tackle, I've already made a mistake. For me, a lot of the time she was making these tackles because she was in the wrong position to start with.
It's a last ditch attempt type thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not always the defender that slides in last minute with the heroic blocks and the challenges that are actually the best defenders. It's your Virgil van Dijks who do things so effortlessly you barely even notice them. Yeah. So, for me, I think, to be honest, this season, Flaherty's probably been her best defender, as much criticism as she's come in for. I actually think she's done really, really well, and has been heavily exposed on that right-hand side by Kovisto, who, by the way, that's not a criticism of Kovisto. It's clearly a plan that she's the one that presses, she's the one that gets forward. And you want to see her in those areas. But my God, sometimes leave Flaherty, who, by the way, can't make herself any faster, exposed on that right-hand side. Half the time she's playing like a right-back, and I think she's done really admirably at times. And sometimes, just quick final point on that, sometimes, Flaherty very rarely gets that big tackle in or that big block in, but sometimes it's just holding the player up while we can get players back, get midfielders back in, and we end up winning the ball back in another way. And without sort of being heroic or without being sort of blasé and in your face about it, she just gets the job done. And I think we're going to just see a little bit more of that with Bonner coming in.
Yeah, I was chuckling then because you're so right about the Emma Kovisto. I think she's just gone. Like, she's just gone every single
absolute
time.
Head case, isn't she?
Absolute, just powers down the wing so often, and it does leave her exposed. You're so right. That's just what made me chuckle.
Powering towards the finish line.
Oh God. Yeah, you make a good point. Who knows what's gonna happen? I think it'll be a shame if Roby leaves. Obviously, she's probably one of the longest serving Liverpool players at the minute.
Yeah.
I think apart from right. Ashley Hodgson will always be number one unless she ever leaves officially. She's obviously on loan, but she's obviously number one. But Roby signed at a time. Sorry?
Neve as well. She's probably
signed at the same year as Neve.
Yeah.
Bo Kearns obviously is a long serving one as well within the academy and stuff. But she signed
under nines.
She signed in an era that completely changed Liverpool women's course of action, what they were doing. Obviously, that massive departure with Scott Rogers and all the players that left with him. Neil Redfern comes in, actually brings Roby in. alongside Fahy, Roberts, God, everyone under the sun. It was a complete overhaul. So it will be sad to see her go, and she's given us some amazing moments. We're talking like she's leaving. We don't know what's going to happen here. But yeah, I think the main consensus is she is a good player, a great player within the
she's
squad.
better than sitting on the bench every week.
She is. She needs more game time, and if she needs to go to another club to get that, you want to see her enjoying the football. You want to see her getting on the pitch a bit more. And if that, I would prefer her to go on loan to get that game time and then possibly come back to us and then have this conversation again. If she develops and gets more game time and shows what she's made of to Matt, maybe that might convince him in a way, because there's obviously a reason.
You're having to give her a new contract
not...
before that. Is she signing a commitment to stay at Liverpool without that guarantee? Possibly
not. Probably not. You make a good point. Anyways, another player, which is a very, very similar-ish conversation, obviously not having been at the club so long, is Carla Humphrey. Now, there's a lot of rumours going on about her going out on loan. Nothing has been confirmed yet, obviously, but I think she's very much in the same boat as Deanne Robe, not getting game time, and something that stands out to me throughout that whole championship winning season is that Carla Humphrey was brought in at the start of that season, and Andy, you still there? Oh dear.
Yeah, go ahead.
There we go. Carla. We lost Andy for a second there, but we're back. But yes, as I was saying about Carla Humphrey, signed at the beginning of the championship winning season. Didn't play a lot at all, really. Only really saw her in the cup games and then very late on in the championship games. And I think Matt Beard was questioned about that a few times as to why that might be. And a lot of the replies we were getting is, we've brought in Carla Humphrey for when we get back into the WSL. That was quite a clear message that was sort of portrayed, and he's very much laid her on a pedestal of a WSL standard player. And then obviously, fast forward to this season, we're seeing it very, very few times appear on the starting 11, and obviously been involved in the cup games and stuff. But her future again is very, very unclear at Liverpool. I think she's not got a cemented place in the starting 11, very much been a sub player, very much like Roby, as we were just talking about. Again, like, if you're Carla Humphrey, what is the options? It's quite difficult to know where Carla Humphrey fits in the rest of this Liverpool sort of career of hers.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with how you described it there. Everyone told us last season when she wasn't playing, she's been brought in for the WSL. She's playing the WSL. We're in the WSL now. We haven't seen her. I can only really go off what I've seen when I've seen her, and obviously because, as we've just alluded to, we haven't seen an awful lot of her in any form of competition. We don't have a massive sample size, and she does have her fans out there. There's no doubt about it, and it's understandable. She definitely, there's no doubt there is a good player in there. But for me, I'm trying to sort of phrase it so it come across as being harsh or whatever. There are some games where she's really done my head in off the ball, and that's that will come across as harsh. There's no doubt as a technical footballer, she's a great passer of the balls. She's
a good assister of the ball as well.
Yeah, she's got all that in her locker. But I watched a game recently, or it happened a couple of times. I think it was a cup game. I think it was against Man City in the Conti Cup, and we lost the ball, and everyone was breaking their neck to get back in. And she was just sort of jogging back, and then came alive sort of when the ball was going forward. Now, there's a possibility that that's Matt Beard telling her, we want you to stay up as high as possible, but there's also a possibility that it's possibly a little bit of laziness, or possibly a lack of fitness based on the fact that she hasn't played that much.
You know what I think it is? I think it's a lack of motivation, because she's not been playing.
Whether I can't get on board with that.
Maybe that again is me being quite harsh. I agree with you. Very, very technically gifted player, and when she is being called upon in attacking situations, like really, really good. Obviously assisted a few vital goals this season. But it is just something, isn't it? It's like she doesn't seem to be playing like freely playing, almost playing with a bit of a chip on her shoulder from whatever that is. But yeah, I'm on the same boat with you on that one. And it's harshly because I think she is an incredible footballer, but it's
Yeah.
you don't play her over like a Mel or a Shanice or a Kerry or a Bo. You just don't.
Yeah. I mean, and put it this way, you don't how many WSL teams will be lining up to sign her? Not very many, in my opinion. I think she might have to go down to the championship and prove herself there before, because really, I mean, she was very much hyped as a youngster, and I don't know if she sort of bought her own hype or whatever. And we are completely speculating on this and what she's like, and whether it's motivation, or it could just be sort of tactics, or it could be a lack of fitness. But for me, you look at our midfielders, and he's made a point of getting a lot of physicality in the team. You see, there's three big sort of Groxa defenders in there, and it's probably going to play from now on. There's Katie Stengel up front. You've got Jazz Matthews in midfield. You've got Rachel Furness. These are big physical players in a big physical league. And for me, Humphrey doesn't offer any sort of physicality. She's not really offering any sort of legs or fitness. And is her quality on the ball enough to sort of supersede those other things? I don't think so. I don't think she's any better on the ball than what Missy Bowe-Kearns is. And if you are picking a midfielder, say in a midfield three, and their job is just and the job is just to sort of stay up and do things and produce magic on the ball, I'd rather just play Furness, because we know that Furness can't get about the pitch as much as she used to. And even Furness can't get much of a look in this season. Well, she's played certain games, which is certainly not a regular starter, far from it. So, I look around and all of our midfielders do something, and all of our midfielders offer something. I suppose she's most similar to Missy Bowe-Kearns in terms of style and in terms of what she offers. And I would much rather watch Missy Bowe-Kearns for the next 3-4 years of this club than Carla Humphrey. Sorry.
You are entitled to your own opinion, Andy. That is absolutely fine. But I'm sure within the January window we will find out what happens to obviously both Roby and Carla Humphrey. We obviously wish they both stay because they seem absolutely lovely people. But I guess football is football, and football can be a really harsh reality sometimes. One last thing to talk about, which is kind of sad again. I feel like this has been a bit of a dreary podcast. No, two more things to talk about, and we only have 9 minutes. We better hurry this up. Charlotte Wardlaw has been recalled to Chelsea. I know you feel quite strongly about this one, Andy, but you know what? I was heartbroken when she left the first time because I genuinely thought we were going to sign her full time. Like at the end of the championship season, I genuinely thought it was going to happen. But she gets recalled, but well, not recalled. Her loan ends and she goes back to Chelsea, and then she comes back. Woo! Brilliant. She comes back. Doesn't play as much as I thought she would, and plays in a different position and more in the CDM role. But yeah, obviously Chelsea have recalled her back. Not too sure what dynamic that's going to work with when she gets back, whether she's going to get more game time, less, or whatever. But yeah, ultimately a blow, isn't it?
Massive blow. And you say I have strong feelings on this. I'm gutted about it without feeling like sort of anyone's to blame. I don't blame Matt Beard for not playing her more, because there's been certain games where she hasn't been suited to. She's only 19 years old. You don't want to pin your hopes, or you don't want to necessarily have to put everything behind pinning your hopes on a 19-year-old playing at the base of your midfield in your first season back in the WSL.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure whether she's been recalled for a lack of game time, but I don't think, I think the game time she's got has been completely fair. And I have called for her to come into this team. I think, right away from the start of last season, certainly Matt Beard's been playing with that three at the back, and therefore that leaves the two in midfield. And that was always a concern of mine, because it was like when you come up to the WSL and you haven't got 100% of the ball all the time, then you sort of need that extra player in there. And we saw that really come to the fore against Everton, which was, I think, when Charlotte Wardlaw made her sort of second debut coming on in that game with about 15 minutes to go. And I thought she impressed when she came on, and I thought we looked at a different team when she came on as well. And there was she played in a couple of Conti Cup games, and I think she plays down at who was it? Was it Reading or Brighton? One of those two. She starts the game, and I think she does really well. And for me, the thing about Charlotte Wardlaw is she's just like a really, really intelligent footballer. She's really understated, but sort of finds passes and finds angles, and finds way of moving on and off the ball that are just a little bit of a step ahead of other players on the pitch sometimes. And to say that about her at 19 really, really bodes well for her future. Our chat for her at the Women's Supporters Club to the tune of Mamma Mia went Charlotte Wardlaw, here we go again. Why did Chelsea ever let you go? So possibly they
That's
were
a bit
listening to us.
redundant. It's gone a bit redundant now, that one,
Well, they
hasn't it?
are. Yeah, maybe
Yes.
why won't Chelsea ever let you go? More like because they keep running us
Yes.
out there. But as much as I'm gutted, as much as I think it's a blow to us, because I think you're looking to get three in that midfield now. Without Wardlaw, you're gonna have to sign a couple of players, and maybe it is worth holding on to Carla Humphrey for another 6 months just in case.
Yeah.
But in terms of her, I think she's a cracking young girl by all accounts. Haven't sort of met her, but I've just seen her with the young ones and with the supporters and in certain interviews and stuff. And I
She's
think she's one of
bossy
those players
too.
who could definitely go right to the top of the game. She can physically develop and not pick up any injuries. She certainly has a footballing brain to be a fantastic WSL
Yes.
player. And it's just a shame it's probably not going to be for us at this point.
I know. Well, we wish her all the best. She's done a lot for us over the last 2 seasons, so wish her all the best. And then quickly, well, obviously, if these materialized, we will do a podcast that goes into them in a little bit more depth. But there's a couple of transfer rumors that we're going to quickly go to because we only have 6 minutes left, and Andy's got somewhere to be tonight. How rude!
Okay, do you know what? Do you know where I have to be? Actually, I'm playing football with the Anfield Wrap ones, but the only person who's driving from town has a car full, so I'm gonna actually just get my running shoes on and run there because I need to get a run in this week as well.
Oh dear God!
So
Run
like,
before football? You're absolutely crazy, man.
I know, but if my legs fall off, somebody might need to. We need an emergency hotline for Andy's legs at this point.
Oh God. Anyways, on that note, 2 midfielders, which bodes well into the conversation we were just having. Sophie Lundgaard, who's a 20-year-old midfielder, Danish, and she's been noted as an attacking midfielder, so a little bit higher up the pitch. And then Sam Kerr, woohoo! Not that one. From
what?
Rangers. I know.
That's
From Rangers, who is another midfielder who's been quite highly rated. But that's 2 young talents there, which could bring our age average down a little bit. But 2 fresh attacking midfielders in there, an area which we so desperately need some more players in. I can't tell you how sad I was when Kerry Holland got injured at the thought of not having Kerry Holland in the team. So if one of these 2 turns out to have even a fraction of the stamina that Kerry Holland has, we must be in for a winner. Do you know what I mean? We have to be. But 2 prospects there. How are you thinking about them?
Yeah, first of all, full disclosure, never seen either of them kick a football in my life. So there is that. Second thing, and probably possibly most pertinently, Sophie Lundgaard is noted as a midfielder for her current club in Denmark, but where's the number 9?
Yeah, I thought that was a bit strange,
For me, that's
a
cardinal
criminal.
And that's a massive. Then for me, I'll happily play nobody in midfield this season rather than that. So I've never seen either of them. Did my internet connection go there for a second? No, it said it was unstable.
It did, but you just keep rolling. We're good.
Okay, I was talking nonsense anyway, to be completely honest. I was talking loads about her, wearing the number 9 in midfield. So Sam Kerr, again, never seen her, 23 years old, a little bit more experience. However, the Scottish League's actually better than what most people think. There's a couple of decent teams in there. Now, you do get the odd sort of 8s and 9-0s, but like we do in this league. Chelsea beat Leicester 9-0, Arsenal beat Leicester 9-0, Arsenal beat Brighton 9-0. So, we can sort of turn our nose up at these other leagues and say they're not competitive, but you've got the likes of Glasgow City, who won the league a couple of years ago, played in Europe. Rangers and Celtic will always be up there given the size of those 2 respective clubs. So, I've seen a couple of people questioning they step up from the Scottish League to the WSL. It's going to be too much for her. I think that gap's, there's certainly a gap there, but I think that gap is shorter than what people think. And just another quick note on Lundgaard, obviously hasn't played for the Danish national team fully yet, but her goal record for the youth teams is amazing. Like, have you seen it? It's like 6 and 13 for the under 17s for Denmark, and 6 and 8
for
the Danish under 21s, which isn't a bad level, by the way. Under 21 European football. Denmark, again, not one of the massive powerhouses in the women's game either. So that's really encouraging. And if you look at it, Kerry Holland isn't going to get many goals from midfield. Furness isn't playing that much. Right now our main two in midfield is Holland and Matthews. How many goals a season are you getting from Holland and Matthews? If we do get a player like that in and they can hit the ground running, and obviously Sam Kerr's an attacking midfielder as well, we could just get a couple more goals from midfield, chipping away at that goal tally, helping out Katie Stengel, taking a little bit of the weight off her shoulders. And who knows, that might be enough to keep us up. That might be the difference.
Could have said it better myself there, Mr. Bell. Perfect. But yes, obviously, if that does materialize, we'll go into so much more detail about them. That was just a little bit of a quick taster because there's a couple of rumors flying around at the minute. Watch them be announced tonight before this goes live. Just watch it happen. But yeah, that's all we've got time for with our 1 minute 30 on the clock left. So much anxiety when it comes towards the end of the show, honestly. But you, best of luck to your legs on this run, Andy. I hope you get there all alive. Please let us know. But yes.
Well, lovely way to buy out, by the way, if I don't.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. But yes, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Andy, for joining me this week. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having
me. We make sure you keep up to date across our socials. We are quite active at the minute, obviously with it being January and the transfer. So with all your information, get onto our social media, and hopefully all the information's there if we get it on time. But yes, make sure you like this video, comment down below anything, if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, we'd love to hear. And then make sure you subscribe so you get notified every time we post. And we'll be back next week with another podcast. See you later.